Sunday, Yud Gimel Nissen, the Ortzeit of the Tzemach Tzedek, Tavshin Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer Maamar Tavshin Yud Aleph Tavshin Yud Beis in the Maamar Alpayim Shana Kodma Torah Le'olam. Second day of Shavuos Tavshin Yud Aleph. We are on page Tzadik Gimel. In the middle of the last paragraph. In the last paragraph on the page, we are 7 lines from the bottom by the word Aval. Page Tzadik Gimel. The Rebbe over here is discussing, obviously it's a Maamar for Shavuos, so the theme is Torah, and he quotes the Maamar Chazal, which says, Alpayim Shana Kodma Torah Libriyasar Shel the world, the Torah preceded the creation of the world by 2,000 years. The question is, what constituted time before the creation? Because time is also created. Yesh me'ayin, ex nihilo, just like everything else. And he went into 3 different layers of why there was no time, why it's not possible to say time before the creation of the world, until he gets to the point, to the bottom line, where time itself is a created being, created entity rather. So what is the meaning of 2,000 years before the creation of the world? So the Rebbe explains that this is a reference to levels. Alpayim, well, first of all, this Maamar Chazal is derived from a Passuk in Mishlei, chapter 8, verse 30, Pasuk Lamed, where it says, V'ehye sha'ashuyim yoim yoim. A reference to Torah as sha'ashuyim, Hashem's delight. It was a delight, yoim yoim, literally meaning every day, but it says yoim yoim, 2 days. The day of Hashem is 1,000 years. Yoim yoim twice. Yoim twice is what? 2,000 years. So we're talking about, in fact, 2 levels. 2 levels, the 2 levels of Chochma and Bina. A'alef Chochma, A'alef Bina. Aleph is from the expression of teaching, and there's a Pasuk, or an expression based on a Pasuk, which says, A'alef Chochma, A'alef Bina, I will teach you Chochma, I will teach you Bina. So we see that Aleph is related to Chochma, and Aleph is related to Bina. So when you say Alpayim, which means 2 Alephs, what are we referring to? Chochma and Bina. So in other words, we're referring to Torah at the level of Chochma and Bina. And that is why it's Kodma Libriyasar Shel Eilam. It precedes the creation of the world, because worlds are created from Midas. Sheishes Yomim Osa Hashem Es Hashemayim V'Sa'aretz. 6 days Hashem made the heavens and the earth, and as the famous Maamar Chazal, it should have said Bisheishes. Why does it say Sheishes? In 6 days Hashem created the world. What does it mean? Sheishes Yomim Osa. He made the 6 days, and they in turn made this Hashemayim V'Sa'aretz, which is a reference to the 6 Midas, because we know every day of the creation there was another midah, another sphere of the midas, of the emotional attributes, which are more related to the world, to the creation of the world. So Torah is Alpayim Shana Kodma Torah Libriyasar Shel. It precedes world because it's higher than worlds. World is related to midas, Torah is related to Meichin, Chacham and Bina. Right? That's roughly what the Rebbe said until now. Then the Rebbe started, as it began in Ois Beis, and this is where we're in the middle of dissecting this. The Passuk actually enumerates.
Why 1,000? Because 10, I understand the idea of 10. That within Chochma and Bina, there's 10 parts of. And why 1,000?
Again, over here we're talking about the idea of Alpayim from the expression of Aleph, teaching. Why specifically 2,000? I suppose under the Shaila. Why the number 2,000? The Rebbe over here focuses on these 2 psukim in the Mishlei, which are a reference to Torah. And the Rebbe says, in fact, there are 5 levels here. Right? The Pasuk actually enumerates 5 points in connection to Torah. Va'ehye etzlei amain. That's how the Pasuk begins. Va'ehye etzlei amain. I was a nursling beside him. I'm quoting now from the Pasuk. It's not inside yet. I was a nursling beside him. Va'ehye sha'ashuyim yoim yoim. I was a delight every day. Sha'ashu'im. Misachekes lefanav b'chol eis. Playing before him at all times. Then a Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Misachekes b'sevel artzei. Playing in his habitable world. In the habitable world of his earth. V'sha'ashu'ei es b'nei Adam. V'sha'ashu'ai es b'nei Adam. And my delights with the children of man. 5 phrases in reference to Torah. So the Rebbe goes into discuss over here that the part of the Passuk on which this Maamar Chazal is based, that the Torah precedes the world by 2,000 years, or by the fact that it's moichin rather than midos, as we're interpreting it now, is the second point that the Passuk makes. The first point is Torah as a nursling beside Hashem. The second one is Torah as a delight, Yom Alpayim Shana. Why do the Chazal focus in on the second aspect of Torah rather than the first? And then it goes into a discussion whether these 5 levels are in descending order or these 5 aspects are in ascending order. In other words, are these 5 descriptions of Torah starting from the highest level going down to the lowest level of Torah? Or is it the other way around? So the Rebbe says it seems apparent that it goes Milmayla Lamata. Omein is Torah. Omein means nursling. Like it says by Esther, by he Omein as Hadassah. Mordechai nursed Hadassah, Esther. So when you say a nursling, that's obviously a stronger connection to the one that nurses, as it were. So Torah as a nursling of Hashem means Torah at the level of Atzmos, the way it is bound up with the very essence of Hashem. What's Shashuim, as we just described? Torah at the level of Chacham and Bina. That's a lower level. Right? So it seems to be going in descending order. Then the Rebbe says perhaps we can say it goes in ascending order. Because Amain, there's another Maamar Chazal that says that Amain is from the expression of Klei Umnus, a tool. That Torah is Hashem's tool with which He created the world. So you seem to be talking about Torah at a lower level. But the Rebbe goes back and says, and that's where we're up to. So according to this Pshat, Torah is a tool, it would seem that we're going in descending order. We're starting from the lowest and going progressively higher. Says the Rebbe no. And that's where we're up to. Page Sad Gimel, in the last paragraph of the page at the word Aval. Aval be'emes, hinei ha'inyin deve'ehei etzlei amayin. But really and truly, this idea of Torah as being a nursling of Hashem, being a nursling beside Him, who hamayla ha'yosef al yonish b'Torah, this is the highest quality of Torah. You're expressing Torah at the highest level. How do we know? Move on. Pirush Rashi is as it is understood from Rashi's explanation of the Pasuk. Amen. Gidula etzlei or gdela etzlei. Torah as something that was raised by Hashem. That's what Rashi says. So therefore, how does Rashi define it? And Rashi being what? The simple literal meaning of the Pasuk. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Torah as a nursling of Hashem, meaning something that Hashem Himself raises. So we're talking about Torah at the level where it is what? Connected to Hashem, rather than what, as we described now, umnus, a tool, a tool with which Hashem crafted the world, which would be an indication that it's talking about the lowest level. So therefore, how do you square the two? If it is Torah at the highest level, how could we refer to Torah as a klei umnus, a tool with which Hashem creates the world? Therefore, we must say, also this fact, this idea that Torah is the crafting tool of Hashem with which He fashions the world, is a very high level, something very, very high. But the bottom line is that the Rebbe concludes that the Pasuk actually goes in descending order, starting from the highest level, Amen, second level, Sha'ashuim, and so on and so forth. What's the pshat? How is it that the very highest level of Amen, being a nursling, being connected to the very essence of Hashem, is connected to the Torah as a tool with which Hashem creates the physical world, Lamata, which seems to be Torah at the lowest level. But the idea behind this is the Hinei, sometimes it says, Bidvar Hashem Havaya Shemayim Nasu. With the word of Hashem, the heavens were made. What does that mean? That creation is from which level? Dibur, speech. Sometimes it says, whatever Hashem desires, He makes. What does that mean? That creation comes from where? From the desire and the will of Hashem. Of course, these are references to levels. Speech is obviously at a lower level than desire, right?
It follows
it. Much later. As we know in the Seder, there is Taino, Grotzen, Moichin, Midas, Malchus, Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, right? So Dibur is very much at the very tail end. So why? So what does it mean? Is creation through Dibur, or is creation through Chayvetz V'Ratzon? So Chassidus explains that in fact both are true. Why? Because Shekol Nivra Kol Mechemer V'Tzura. Each created being is made up of substance and form. Hina Chemer. What's the Chemer? What's the substance? Shehu Guf Mamashas HaNivra, which is the actual physical body of the created being. That is Naasa B'Dvaravai. That's made by what? By Hashem's Dibur, the lower level, the utterance of Hashem, the level of godliness as defined in this level of Dibur. B'Tzuras HaNivra, the form of the created being, which means what? The neshama, Naasa D'Chefetz V'Ratzon Havaya. That's made through what? Through the desire and the will of Hashem. Shebebchina zu nimshech liyis bitl hanivroim. From which level do the creatures, the created beings, are created beings able to be bottled to Hashem? From the tzura, from the neshama, from the thing that gives life to the created being. So we have these two. Both of them are correct. Bidvar Hashem Shamayim Nasu, speech creates. The speech of Hashem creates the substance, the body of the created being, and Chayvetz V'Ratzon Hashem, Hashem's desire, Hashem's will, that creates the neshama of the created being. So now let's go, how does that refer to Torah? When we say that Torah is the crafting tool through which Hashem creates, which aspect of creation are we talking about? Hainu, Shal Yoda hi hishavus hatzura. What's Torah? Chachmasai uritzaynai Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is Torah? It's Hashem's wisdom and Hashem's will, Ratzon. As we said, Hashem also desire, will. What does that create? We just said the neshama. So when we say Torah as a fashioning tool with which he creates, we're talking about creating what? The tzura, the neshama of the created being. Hakshurim abitl shebenevraim, which is connected to the aspect that causes the nullification of created beings before Hashem. Another point we can say, says the Rebbe. Really and truly we could say that creation through Torah, which is as a fashioning tool of Hashem, as a crafting tool of Hashem, is also connected to what? To the creation of not only the neshama, the tzura, but also to the chemer, the substance. This is according to that which the Alter Rebbe explains in the section of Tanya known as the Geras HaKodesh, the holy letter. There is an aspect in the created being, in the actual physical created being, which is linked to the very highest, the very essential existence of Hashem. Because who has the ability to create ex nihilo? Which level of godliness has the power to create ex nihilo? Only Hashem Himself. Why? Because Hashem Himself is the ultimate yesh, and He doesn't have anything that precedes Him, right? The ultimate existence. And no one has created Him, right? Therefore, He has the ability to create a yesh, and such a type of existence that feels itself as if it is a true yesh and an existence, without kaviyachol chas v'chalila, a creator. Who can create such a being? Dafka, someone who is ultimately like that, really like that himself. And who is that? Hashem Himself. So therefore, in a certain sense, the very essence of Hashem expresses Himself more in the actual chemer hanivra, in the body of the created being, even more than in the nefesh. Right? So in this sense, therefore, as Alter Rebbe carries on over there in Igeres HaKodesh Simchav, only He Himself, Hashem's very essence, has the power and the ability to create ex nihilo, from total nothingness. This is what we say. This is the meaning when we say that the creation of the world is through the Torah, because Torah is rooted in the very essence of Hashem. So when we say the first aspect in the Passuk, Torah as a nursing of Hashem, meaning Torah at the level of Atzmus, Torah as it is bound up with the very essence of Hashem, that goes along very nicely with Torah as a fashioning tool for creation. Because creation, both the tzura, as we just mentioned before, comes from the level of chayfetz. And even the chaymer, even the body of the created being, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, can really and truly only come from where? From the very essence of Hashem. So therefore, these two pirushim, these two explanations in Torah, one as a nursing of Hashem, meaning Torah at level of Atmos, and as a crafting tool for the creation of the world at the very lowest level, go along very nicely with each other. What's the bottom line of all of this? The question that we were discussing was, is the Torah going in descending order or in ascending order? The Passuk, is the five levels over here going from the highest level to the lowest, or the other way around? So the Rebbe says in Mikol Zemuvim, from all this is understood, that the order of the Passuk goes from above to below. That the highest level of Torah, the greatest quality of Torah, is the fact that it is a nursing before Hashem, with Hashem. That's the highest level. So now we come back again to the question that Rebbe asked about Pisa and move on. According to this, it's not understood. Why do the Chazal in this Maamar, in this saying on which this Maamar is based, why do they quote the quality of Torah in the sense that the quality of Torah at the level where it is precedes the world 2,000 years, which is what? Chachma and Bina. Which is, how does it refer to in the Pasuk? Where does it derive from? From the part of the Pasuk that refers to Torah as Shashuim, a delight every day, which is the second point in the Pasuk. Why didn't they focus in on the first point in the Pasuk, which is the greatest quality of Torah? Torah as what? As a nursing before Hashem. Klar? We also need to understand with Morgan Avron, we also need to understand why does the Torah use the word Eheya is what? I shall be. What is that? Your mother is a Hebrew teacher, right? What is Eheya I shall be? Lashon Asid, in the future. Eheya Lashon Asid. Why does the Pasuk use the expression I will be, I shall be? When was this Maamar Chazal said that the Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years? It's a medrash. So the Rebbe says this is from the times of the Amiroim, from the times of the Gemara. Or at the very least, if you want to really delve into it, when was it said? At the time of Torah, when the Torah was given. Why? Everything that a proper Talmud will be mechadish, will innovate in Torah, was given actually where? At Sinai to Moshe, right? So this Maamar Chazal Alpayim Shana Kodma Torah L'Briyasa Shel Olam, although said in the Medrash, in the time of the Mishlei and the Gemara, nevertheless, when was it given? It was revealed then. But when was it given to Moshe? It was actually given to Moshe at Sinai. The Pasuk should have said in the past tense. Hayisi etzli omein. Why? Because we're talking to it at the level that is in Atzmos, at the very highest level of bound up in Hashem. When was that? That was Alpayim Shana Kadmon Torah L'Briyasa Shel Olam, right? You're talking about whether it's Omein or Shashurim, you're talking about levels which are way, way preceding in Maila, or in time, as it were, to the event, to the time period when it was said. Why does it say I shall be in the future? By that time, when the Chazal were saying this, Alpayim Shana Kadmon Torah L'Briyasa Shel Olam, or when the Passuk in Mishlei was said, Torah was already, it would seem to be, the Torah at the level of Omein already took place when? Way, way before them. So there it gets a little technical here. When you say Eheya I shall be, but you add a Vav at the beginning, and the Vav, actually what it does is, it turns over the tense from, correct, Vav HaHipuch. It's a Vav that turns over the tense from from future to the past. So Eheya on itself would have been what? Past tense. But if you say Vav, if you add a Vav to the beginning, because Aaron says a Vav HaHipuch, right? A Vav that transforms, that converts, it converts it from future to past. So then it would mean that what? And I was a nursling by Hashem. So then it makes sense. Amnam says that, but that's fine according to Diktuk. You're absolutely right. Amnam is b'Zohar is the Zohar says shemashakosov etzli amein al derech eheya asher eheya. The Zohar says that this pasuk for eheya etzli amein eheya is similar to what? To the another eheya that's written in the Torah. Where? When Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, when the Yidden will ask me, what is your name? What should I say? He says, what? Eheya asher eheya. What does that mean? I will be.
What will I be?
What I will be. Huh?
Whatever.
Right? But what's the tense over there? Says the Zohar, the ano zomin lizgalo la'asid lavai. Over here, eheya refers, the Zohar says, to the time that I will reveal myself in the future time to come. In the future. So from the Zohar, who connects the eheya of this pasuk of Mishlei to the eheya asher eheya in Shmos, which the Zohar interprets as an event that's going to take place in the future, it's clear that this eheya is also the future. So we have to understand, why is this concept expressed in the future tense. This is the backdrop. This is all the backdrop. Now the Rebbe goes into a very fascinating expose into this pasuk, into these two pasukim. Page Tzadik Dalet at the bottom. In order to understand this, we have to first preface Biur hachamisha inyanim shenimnu b'kosov. The explanation of the 5 points that are enumerated in these pasukim of Mishlei. Mishlei chapter 8, verse 30 and 31. And the Rebbe enumerates, I was a nursling beside him. These are all references to Torah. Torah as a nursling beside Hashem. Next one, I was a delight every day. Playing before him at all times. That's the third one. That's already verse Lamed Aleph, 31. Playing in the habitable world of his earth. That's number 4. And my delight with the children of man. These are the 5 things that Shlomo HaMelech describes in these 2 psukim. What is this? It is explained in this that these are actually 5 levels of Torah. The when the Torah refers to, when the Pasuk refers to Torah as an Amen, and by Hashem, as a nursling before Hashem, this refers to Torah at the level of Atzmus. The way Torah is bound up at the very essence of Hashem. Etzlei. Etzlei, Amen. Right? Connected to Atzmus. The second part of the Pasuk, Torah as a delight every day. This is a reference to Torah at the level as it descends, and it is at the level of Chachma and Bina, as we explained earlier in the Maamar. Which is the general idea of Seichel, of intellect. Concerning this level, it says Sha'ashuim, delight. He's contrasting that, as we will see later. It says Shashui again in the last level, but it says over there Shashuai, my delight. Okay? Here it says Shashuim, a delight. Afshali Nema Shashuai.
Because it's Chochmah Bin, that's 2 levels.
That's why it's Shashuim plural. Yeah. Well, that's from the Yom Yom.
Yeah.
Okay? But the reference over here is Shashuim, as opposed, it means it's a delight, as opposed to being Hashem's delight, at the very essence of Hashem. Because the point is going to be that at the lowest level, it becomes Shashuai, you reconnect to the very essence. That's going to be the punchline. I don't want to give it away. But over here it says Shashuim. Actually, Nema Shashuai, although it doesn't say Shashuai, my delight, Shehu Inyan Shashuim Atzmim, when it would say my delight, it would mean the essential delight, meaning delight at the level of Atzmus, at the very essence of Hashem. Im Shashuim Stam over here says just delight, Stam, plain. But it's still called Shashuim, delight. Delight is more connected to Tainug or to Rotzen, right? Pleasure or desire. Why at the level of Chochmah and Bina, intellect, do we call it with a term which is more referred to Tainug and to Rotzen? Because Torah, even at the level of what? Of intellect, you have within it also this idea of Tainug. We have another few minutes? Huh? Another couple minutes? It's known, you do Hadig V'Losh Chazal, Eiraisa Mechochma Nafkes. By the way, Bunim asked last week, where's the quote? It's Takal Beraisa Bar Alma, Hashem looked in the third and created the world. It's the Zohar, it's the Zohar in Pashas Truma. It is known Hadig V'Losh Chazal, the choice of words in the expression of Chazal is the Chazal say Eiraisa Mechochma Nafkes. Torah comes from Chochma. And it says Nafkes Daike. It comes from Chochma. Shagilu Shelo Hayadei Chochma. The revelation of Torah is through Chochma. That's the meaning of Eiraisa Mechochma Nafkes. But what does it mean? It's revealed through Chochma. Aval Shosha Hu L'Bayla Avamai Chochma. But the source of Torah is really higher than Chochma, higher than the level of intellect. In the level of Tainuk, Torah comes from a much higher level. Okay, we'll stop over here.